Hello and welcome to The Right Life with me, Elaine Collier. Now, people who know me know that as well as being this ordinary, everyday, down-to-earth woman, there is another side of me, and that is one of my spirituality. And for many, many years, I have been following my own spiritual path. And when I first started to write, my first book was nonfiction, and it was all part of my recovery process from breast cancer for the second time. But I loved the process so much, and I decided to carry on writing. And so my second book was really still nonfiction, but it was the story of my spiritual journey to that point in time. And I thought I needed to share this with others. And although it's out there in book form and it's available on Amazon, and I think it's on Barnes and Noble and a few other places, I also have this urge to share it further. So I'm going to start serializing this here on YouTube, probably chapter by chapter. It's going to take a while, but I just want others to understand that following a spiritual pathway is normal. It's you do change, but you don't have to change the essence of who you are. So I don't think I've done that. I think I am still me at the end of the day. Others may well tell you different, but a spiritual journey is not all about sitting in the lotus position and chanting although you can do that if you want to as well. There's no right or wrong way in doing this. So the bigger picture is my story of how spirituality first came into my life and how it developed over the years. I will just add at the beginning, though, that because this is me writing it, it's very down to earth, and I swear in the book. So if you can't or don't want to listen to me swearing or whatever, then maybe this is not the thing for you. So now's your chance to switch off and look away. So we start the journey in the beginning. Where else would you start? So this is chapter 1, and there are many chapters, I must tell you this. So in the beginning. Let's go to the Spiritist church on Sunday, she said. Whatever for? I asked. Dunno really, something to do. And that was that. June was my best friend. I say was, not because we fell out or anything, but because she's now passed. We met when working together at a local firm of accountants in St Ives in Cambridgeshire, and our friendship was born. We had a lot in common. We were both born in London, the same age. Well, actually, she was 2 years older than me and always claimed senior status, and shared the same warped sense of humour. Constantly on the lookout for new and interesting things to do to relieve the boredom of an accountant's office, we toyed with many new activities over the years. We took up Keep Fit, badminton, dancing, hairdressing, and even horse riding. All had their good points, and all had us and everyone around us in fits of laughter, mainly because we were useless at what we were doing and loved to laugh far more than we loved doing what we were supposed to. So the spiritualist church idea was, I thought, just another thing to try and tick off the list. Yes, okay, it was a bit unusual, and I was sure that laughing might be frowned upon, but hell, why not? This would soon die a death, and we would move on to our next great big adventure. I asked June what the point of going to the church was. To see if it exists, this life after death business, she replied. And I must admit, it did pique my interest. To be honest, I wasn't sure. My mum had always told me that my granddad was in heaven and watching over me. I loved the thought of that, and it gave me a lot of comfort. But as I grew older, I began to wonder, could the dead really go someplace else? Surely, once you died, that was it. After the body was either buried or burnt, you weren't going anywhere after that. So the church it was, and off we went one Sunday evening, full of apprehension. When we get there, said June, tell them nothing. What? We don't want them remembering stuff about us that they can use later, she replied. St. Ives Spiritualist Church was basically just a couple of rooms in a big old building located down a dark and gloomy free church passage. The big green door was not particularly welcoming, but in we went. The flight of stairs immediately in front was even more dark and gloomy and imposing than the front of the building. The whole place had a feel about it, and I was getting a bit spooked. What's that smell? I asked. Embalming fluid, she said. Jesus, how do you know what embalming fluid smells like? I don't. I'm just saying. And stop swearing. We're in a church. She was a fine one to talk. Her language could match anyone on a building site. We opened the door to the right. Well, she did because I pushed her in first. After all, she was the senior one. It was surprisingly bright, filled with rows of chairs and some sort of stage with a lectern at the front of the room. Not too many people, but then we were early. To get a good seat, she claimed. For God's sake. A woman came over and said hello. She had a nice smile and was welcoming. We sat down and waited. Nothing much happened. What a letdown. I had envisaged all sorts of weird and wonderful things happening in that room that night. People levitating, chairs moving about on their own, people wailing and going into some sort of trance-like state, and so on. I mean, I had read about these types of things and people getting you hooked into their cult as soon as look at you. But no, nothing like that at all. We sang hymns. The highlight came towards the end of the evening when the medium of the week started delivering messages from the other side. Now, this is what we came to see. This was going to be our proof of life after death, one way or another. But, to be honest, I wasn't sure whether I wanted a message or not. I needn't have worried. No message. Nothing. Nada. Diddly bloody squat. Well, that was a waste of time, I said to June as we left the church. What do we do now? We come back next week, she replied. Tune in for chapter 2.